Welcome to Smart Branding, a podcast dedicated to branding, naming, and domain names. I'm Tatiana Bonneau, and with my guests, we try to help you create and grow strong, memorable, and meaningful brands online. I believe time is one of our most precious assets, and so I want to thank you in advance if you decide to spend the next 30 minutes with us. I promise to do my best to make those worth it. Let's go!
Tell me a little bit of a background about yourself and how you got into olive oil.
Yeah, so I actually did not have any intention of going into the olive oil industry or working in food at all. My background's in the design and architecture world. So I have a degree in architecture. I was pursuing a career to become a licensed architect in the US. I had taken an architecture internship in Barcelona. I was working at a really great firm in the Bay Area. I was on a very clear path to become an architect, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. And I got sidetracked by my now husband. But before Giuseppe and I actually got married, that was what I was pursuing. But Giuseppe, my now husband, his background's in health and fitness and wellness. And his family's been making olive oil for almost 100 years.
Oh, wow.
And when we met in Rome in summer of 2014. We did long distance for a while, and then he eventually ended up moving to the US. And it was actually his idea to go into the olive oil industry. And I was very adamant about, no, I don't want to do that. I want to continue down the path of architecture. I want to become an architect, la-di-da-da. Yeah, right. Like, let's see where that landed me. But I realized when I was working and I just really wasn't happy in the world of architecture, because I could see very clearly that in the next 10 years, I was not going to move up to the place that I wanted to be in. It's really hard to move up the ladder, and compared to other industries, the pay and the bump up within companies are not aligned at all. And it was frustrating to me, because I would go and work on like $10 million homes in San Francisco and then not get a pay that I thought that I was worthy of. And then I also, of course, saw my friends working in tech, because the Bay Area is a global tech capital. And they were moving forward and just growing so much and learning so much. And I felt really, really stagnant, and like I was just going to be treading water for a really long time. And that wasn't worth it for me. I didn't want to dedicate 10 years of my life to basically end up, I don't know, being a manager at an architecture firm that wasn't even mine. I wanted something that I felt like I could take ownership of. And that's when I said, you know what, let me take a step back and see if making something would be really fulfilling to me. And I had a friend that owned a winery, and harvest was coming up. And I asked her, I said, hey, can I come work for you during fall harvest? And she said, yeah, absolutely. Come work with me. And I told her the olive oil company idea that Giuseppe was pitching. And she was like, Skyler, you should really pursue that, because it could be really interesting and you don't know where it could take you. Making wine and making olive oil are very similar, but as I'm sure you're familiar with, but wine, there's not, with olive oil, there's no aging process. So the process is much shorter. And that's how I kind of got into the world of olive oil.
That's fun. Yeah, because I was wondering, like, not many people grow up thinking, oh, I'm gonna do that. and then, like, once you start looking into it, because I've obviously looked at your website and everything, that looks quite exciting and quite like a. And also, I love the way that you are making it exciting, actually, because I think a lot of people are like, oh, that's that thing, on the shelf, and they don't have that that connection, that idea. Like you mentioned wine. So most people have that idea of, the process, the story, with wine. And that might be just my experience, but I don't think a lot of people have that with olive oil. So in a way, you have to create that as you are getting them familiarized with your brand.
It's true. Olive oil is not sexy. We look at wine and it's so sexy. Yeah. It's something that we lust after. It's romanticized. You see, especially in movies, I mean, come on, that they're driving through on this romantic drive through the vineyards, and they're going tasting in the south of France. Like you see that in a million American films. And it's a product that is very much romanticized. And it's interesting because olive oil is so similar, but it's just not as sexy. And the industry is also, it's been stagnant for a really, really long time. And it hasn't been covered as much in the media. Like there's just not nearly as much attention on the product as there has been for wine. And I think there's a couple reasons for that. First, we have a tendency, like human beings have a tendency to put an emphasis on alcohol instead of non-alcoholic products. So it's an alcohol, it's sexier, like alcohol's hot, like that is something that's marketing. And then we also just haven't, and also alcohol is consumed, I guess, faster. Like a bottle of wine is consumed much faster than a bottle of olive oil. So the turnover of the product is much higher. Yeah. And it moves more quickly. People go through a case of wine much faster than they go through a case of olive oil.
But then on the bright side, I guess, you have launched in the right time, because now with the pandemic, I guess people are more aware of health. So there has been a spike in all sorts of health awareness and activities. So that must be a good time to be working on what you're working.
Absolutely. Extra virgin olive oil is the fastest growing cooking fat in the US right now, which is of course good for us, but also I think Americans are just becoming more aware of cooking fats. And I say US because we are based in the United States. We're only shipping within the US. That's who we cater to exclusively at the moment. And yeah, so they're taking a lot more notice of the cooking fats available on the shelf, and they want to know what's in it, who's behind the brand. In the US supermarkets, I feel like we've gotten very pushed or gotten really far away from producers and understanding where our food comes from. It just kind of shows up on grocery shelves, and that can be really dangerous because we need to know where our food is coming from. We want to know who made this, where is it from, what's happening. The lack of transparency is it's concerning. And that's not something that I enjoy having in my food. And I think that people need to learn and deserve to know where their food comes from. And so that's another step that Giuseppe and I take very seriously with EXAU. It's just making sure that people understand what is extra virgin, what it's not, where it comes from, how it's made. And this is not just for our own benefit. Like, of course, it helps our brand, but it also just helps to educate consumers, because at the end of the day, that's our top priority. It's always educate and then sell oil. Yeah.
I think that with the new generation, I'm old enough to say that, the new generation. But no, I'm looking at my kids, and they are actually like much more like, we learned, at least that's my experience, we learned to question ourselves or question what we're buying, and from, what is the brand, what does the brand stand for, does it really stand for that, or is just marketing, etc., etc. That's something that we've learned in our lifetime, whereas kids now, they're growing up with that as a given. And like, I have a soon 17-year-old in the house, and he, like, it's painful to go shopping with him because he's reading everything. Like, he's reading everything on the label, and he goes, that comes from whatever, and that's a bit questionable, and that's and it is painful, but it's a good thing. And it's when you think about it, it's logical. It should have always been like that.
Yeah. And it comes down to responsibility. I think that what are we calling them? Gen Z.
I'm going to cut that bit out. We don't know.
The younger generation. They've done a really good job when it comes to taking responsibility with understanding and trying to find out what's happening in the world. And I feel like, I don't know, millennials, we got thrown into a very interesting time to become an adult. And we had to relearn a lot of things, or look at our parents and be like, I'm not doing that. That's not going to be my future. And now we're having kids and we want our kids to grow up with things that we actually had to learn. So for them, it just becomes second nature.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good thing. How did you come up with the name of the brand?
Yeah, so EXAU stands for Ex-Albus Olivis. And if you Google it, a bunch of olive oil brands come up. And so we shortened it just down to EXAU, but that's what it stands for. And it translates in Latin to white olive or olive harvested white, which actually means olive harvested young. And so back in ancient times, when they were harvesting the olives, the green olives, the young olives, would be harvested first. And that oil was reserved for nobility. And so it was a noble oil. And so for us, EXAU represents the highest quality product that we're able to produce. And that's what our customers deserve to consume.
Okay, that's nice. And what was the process of, because we deal with naming, branding, and domain, so that's always an interesting question for me to ask. What was the process of getting the domain name? How did you select that one? The one
this is the thing that I love. The internet's so easy, right? Especially Google just makes things very easy. I purchased EXAUOliveOil.com. I tried to get EXAU.com, but it was impossible. Someone else had it. Actually, a French brand had it. And I was like, maybe I should write them. And then they went out of business and I tried to find a domain. And now it's very expensive. It's really hard to get. So I'm going to let that go for now. But yeah, it was really, really easy. Just a quick Google search, bought it. As far as registered trademark, because EXAU is a registered trademark in the US. So just know we are a registered trademark in case you get any sweet ideas. We are registered legally for more than 2 years now. So a law firm did it for us. And it's really easy to go through the trademark process in the US. Okay. Sarah Blakely from Spanx actually filed all her trademark documents herself, like back in the 90s, and she's had to redo it. So I think that she probably had someone with legal knowledge redo them, but when she did the filing, she did it herself. I was way too nervous to do that. So we had a law firm.
Yeah, I think I would be as well.
That part. Yeah. You just don't know. You want that extra protection, like what colors, is it going to be all colors? What foods, like what category do you want to limit it to? Do you want multiple categories?
Yeah, you want to make a mistake on there.
You really don't. You can end up in a fat lawsuit if, someone is like, oh, they missed something. Oops.
I had an interview with, I'm going to send it to you after. It might be interesting, even though you've already registered the trademark, but trademark attorney in the US. And we were talking about that. And he was saying a lot of people think just because they started using a name or registered the domain name, they own the brand. And it's like, no, you don't. Unless you legally register it, you don't. And I have that similar thing with domain names. As soon as you start using that brand name, you're investing in that brand, you're building that name. That's all of your business. That's what makes you different. Obviously the quality of your product and service, but that comes second. The first thing that people see in order to select you above another brand is your name. So as soon as you start operating with that name, you're investing in that brand, and you absolutely need to secure it in a way as possible.
Yeah, the thing that's tricky with is the cost. So in the US, it's about $3,000, including the filing fees to get an attorney to do it. And the process is really straightforward. And if you have a trademark attorney, they've done it a gazillion times. It's very, very, very straightforward, but still $3,000 is $3,000 at the end of the day. It's a lot of money for any startup, especially if you're only starting a business with $5,000. You're like, great, there goes 60% of my budget. But it is necessary to do. If you're not able to afford to do it right away, brands can still go onto the USPTO website and do a search to see if there is a brand using their name yet. If there is, then you need to select a different name, but you shouldn't just pick a name out of the sky and then run with it. You need to do research to see if it's actually in use. I was monitoring EXAU because we didn't have it trademarked for a little bit. And I would monitor it to make sure that nothing happened. And then we finally got the USPTO like 100% through. And after that, I was like, sleeping easy. I feel protected. There's just no price of feeling like you have full ownership over your name of your brand.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. Next, you're gonna get the domain name, and then you're gonna sleep even better.
Yes, true. We'll get it.
Cool. I want to ask you something. So you mentioned your team is effectively you and your husband. So how does that work out for you? How is it, like, some people find it challenging to work with their partner? I have my husband nodding there in the corner.
It's extremely challenging, of course. I mean, he's my husband, he's my business partner, he's my best friend. I'm also in a country, I'm in Italy at the time of this recording. I spend a lot of the year here. And he's my home base here as well. And I'm also not 100% fluent in Italian. So when I need to express myself, he's the person I also express myself to, because there's nothing like expressing yourself to a person in your native language. And so it can be a lot, but we also handle very different things in the business. Giuseppe's pretty much all on production and managing the property and all things Italian. I'm all things US, American, English stuff. So I deal with our fulfillment center. I deal with shipping and logistics. I deal with branding and marketing, everything on that side of the business. And everything that's basically what we're doing right now. Obviously, I handle the PR and the marketing and do all the interviews for the most part, unless he wants to hop in with me. But yeah, we have different things that we do and we specialize in. We sometimes go over the boundary, and it can be frustrating because you want to take ownership of your work and you don't really want to be criticized by the person who's not doing your work all the time. It's like, who are you to come over here and have all these opinions when you're not in it 24/7, you know?
Yeah.
But you also need someone to come and back you up or help you problem solve. So we do there's not just a hard line of like, I never do production stuff. Like I was the other day putting manure on the property, which I hate doing. I
don't think somebody who likes doing that exists.
I had other things that I wanted to do. So I definitely didn't want to do that. And so, but the person who was supposed to be helping just that they couldn't make it. And so I had to hop in. You got to do what you got to do, right? And sometimes that means throwing piles of poop onto olive trees. So that's just what it is. And then I needed help with content and coming up with ideas. And then I can brainstorm with Giuseppe and go through the content calendar, make sure he approves. He also is the one who does a lot of the cooking and a lot of the recipes. And so we need to walk through that together. So there's not, it's a gray line and not a clear boundary.
You mentioned the recipes, and I saw you have that. It's like, is it a membership or program on the website with the recipes? Tell me more about that, because that's quite interesting for olive oil. Like I've never seen that before for that type of product.
So we have the recipes on our website are free. They live on our blog. So anyone can access the recipes that we have on our website. We talk a lot about food. We talk a lot about how to use olive oil. There's also an olive oil 101 section, but where we go into the most depth about recipes and Calabria and olive oil and really, really, really great detail. We give more personal details about the journey of making our products. It's in our newsletter. So our blog is something that's on our website. It's there for SEO purposes. It's there so people understand who we are. If they want to come visit Calabria, they have a resource there. If they want to make pasta aglio olio, which of course pasta with olive oil and garlic, they have that recipe on our website. So it's really the starting point. I guess you could say maybe the more towards the top of the funnel. And then the newsletter is actually where we really get into the nitty gritty details of things. The membership is for product only. And we have a newsletter that goes out to our members. So I guess you could say that we do offer some additional details about if I want to go more in depth with a certain, and I don't know, maybe talking about a particular product, we might do that with our newsletters, or excuse me, our membership, our product membership subscribers. And so the membership basically ships out 4 times a year, every 3 months, quarterly. And that includes either 2, 4, or 6 bottles. And it's great because people are able to basically get olive oil a couple times a year. And so they don't have to buy it at the grocery store. They get the oils that they want. And it makes life really easy for them. We also have members that like gifting our oil. And we have a tendency to sell out, especially of the Avis. And so they're able to, if they get the highest bracket membership, they have oil for themselves. And then they also have their gifts for the rest of the year. If they're going to a friend's house, they just grab a bottle of olive oil and go.
That's very cool. Did you come up with that? Like it's a cool idea.
It's yes, we have memberships are big in the US. So wine memberships are a big thing. And I grew up going to Sonoma and Napa, and my parents were members of a gazillion wineries. Like, oh my God, we would just used to go to Sonoma and spend the whole day picking up wine from, I'm not even kidding, 4 different wineries. And they'd be like, you have back order of 3 months or like whatever, 3 quarters. And so we'd leave Sonoma Valley like 5 cases of wine from different wineries. And it's so fun because you get to taste the different wines that the producers are making. Get to taste different vintages, and it's really special. And so I was like, you know what, we could really do that with olive oil. And we have our different types of oil because they have different cultivars and they're different blends. And also they have different pairings with different types of food. So customers can have one of each type of oil throughout, and then they can taste all of them throughout the year. And like I said, if we do sell out, the product is still guaranteed to members.
That's great. And you ship for, at the moment, at least just in the US?
Yeah, US only. Canada, we're trying to get to you, but it's going to just take a minute.
You are in a space, I guess, because we do talk a lot about women in tech. And how is that in your space? How is it being a woman in, I guess you could qualify it as agriculture?
Yeah, it's interesting because when you think of farmers and you think of just agriculture in general, it's usually male dominated industry, especially when you think of the people actually doing the work, it's usually men. And so it's been a really interesting journey because I do actually go out and work harvests. Like while I do most of the marketing and the branding stuff for the rest of the year, when it's harvest, it's harvest. Like I'm not on my computer all day. I'm not doing marketing. Everything's planned out far ahead of time. And I'm in the groves and we're producing the oil that we're going to have for that year. So it's, there's just, it can be lonely, I guess is the word I'm looking for. It can be really lonely because I don't have that. And I don't think this is just like an Italy thing. I think that regardless if I was in California or another place, it would be lonely because there's just not a lot of women that do the work that I do. There's definitely women that, of course, work in administration and the marketing departments and other parts of food businesses. But when it comes to actual production and being like out in the groves, it's not as common. So that has been, again, just lonely and kind of weird in a way because I'm like, why do I feel like I'm alone here? Why aren't there more women doing this?
It's interesting because I guess it's different history, different regions, because in Eastern Europe there was a period which is not that far ago, like literally like my great grandmother and I guess to some extent my grandmother, there used to be more women doing that because men were like gone during the war. So it has stayed as that's a woman's job to be in the field.
Yeah. It was like that here. I mean, if you look at old films from in Italy, especially South Italy, it used to all be women and they used to collect the olives in their aprons and then dump them into little baskets. But yeah, it's because the men were all gone at war, but now it's pretty much all men and women are very much in the house in South Italy. And that's another thing. It's been a culture shock to see how much like women are in the home doing home duties here, because I just did not come from that. And especially in the Bay Area, the women are like, I'm sorry, what? No, I'm CEO. Like, I'm not doing that. You better call someone, because no. And so it's interesting. Like, I don't iron. You can ask Giuseppe. I do not iron. I just learned about mopping.
I can
Sweeping is like a big thing here. I'm not a big sweeper. I'm just not I like keeping our home in a nice, pretty shape, but the role of like housewife is not something that I'm designed to do. Like, that's just not, no. I have a lot of respect for housewives. Like, I'm not trying to throw y'all under the bus. That's not what I'm doing. I'm not throwing you under the bus. It's not for me.
Yeah. Well, it's like everything else, I guess, and I think it's a good thing to acknowledge what is and what isn't for you, because otherwise you can just get frustrated in some role that is just not yours, and that's not good for anyone.
And you waste a lot of time. Like, I don't want to. For me, my skills are lended in other places, so I just no.
Yeah. What is the difference in terms of, because we said like, what is it like working as a woman in that mostly mainly dominated field? Or what is the difference that you spot between the mentality of entrepreneurs in the US and, let's say, in Italy, to not generalize Europe, but I guess.
Oh my God, it is. I don't even think we have enough time for that right now.
Okay.
It's like, I love Italians so much. I adore them. When it comes to entrepreneurship and opportunity, Americans are yes people. That's the difference. Italians are, there are no people with a lot of business things. When it comes to food, yes. Dinner, yes. Social, yes. Everything is yes. When it comes to like business things and really, really moving forward and opportunity, it's no. And it just makes it really challenging here. And I feel for young people that want to own their businesses here in Italy, especially in South Italy, especially in Calabria, there's not a lot of opportunity. I understand the brain drain. I understand why a lot of young Italians have left Italy. It's really hard. And I was talking to you about this earlier, just even like when it comes down to banking, it's tough. It is like the banks here don't work for the people. The people work for banks. It's every single little thing is a challenge. And when you're met with so many challenges along the way, it can really, really be a struggle.
Tearing you down, yeah. Well, at some point, even if it's small things, if it's 10 a day, it's like, yeah. It's
constant. And in the US, I heard no a lot, and I got used to no. I heard no in the beginning, like all the time. No. And I was like, okay, whatever. Okay. Because I knew that a yes was coming. But the yeses here in Italy are just so much fewer. And it's really hard to grow your business. Things are not as, like, just the way that money moves in the country as a whole, there's not as much circulation. Like, the money here just doesn't move as fast or through as many hands as it does in the US. And people ask us all the time, like, why don't you sell your products in Italy? And it's like, because I don't want to deal with it. It's a pain in the butt. And I'm sorry, Italians, I love you guys to pieces. But doing business in this country is really challenging, and it would be an energy drain, and I can't do that.
I think there's different mentality and different priorities as well. And an interview I watched or listened to with Mark Randolph comes to mind, and he was talking about some when he was younger, he came to, I think it was to Italy. No, it was to France. It was to France with a friend, and they were talking to that French entrepreneur who was into leather goods, whatever. And he said, we were there like with my friend for like 30 minutes talking to that guy. Your products are amazing. You can do this, you can do that, you can sell them internationally, you can do like amazing stuff, and you have all that opportunity in front of you. And he said, like, after about 30-40 minutes talking, we realized the guy's just staring at us, and he's looking at us and he's going, yeah, but why? and that kind of sums it up. The guy was like, I'm happy where I am. I don't want to, make myself go through all that trouble for that, opportunity and that enormous market and that enormous everything. And so it's just a different type of, I guess, idea people have about life and speed and opportunity and where you need to get to and why.
And yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And also your sales channels and how people shop, because Italian consumers that's a whole different animal than American consumers. I understand American consumers really well. I'm American myself. I understand. I've been shopping in the US pretty much my whole life. And so I get us. I understand us. Italian shoppers, I haven't figured them out yet. And I'm not sure when or if I will ever understand them. and olive oil is not a product that they necessarily buy online. Like, just in general, e-commerce in Italy is a market I'm not 100% convinced by. I think that, of course, like influencers like Chiara Ferragni, who is, biggest influence in the world, like, I'm sure that she's doing great. But I also don't think that her number one market is Italy. So even though she's based here, e-commerce is a different monster. Also, just when it comes to marketing and branding, like when I go onto Italian brands' websites, there's always something like glitching and like flashing and then the marketing, like I don't get it. It's a tough market that I haven't necessarily cracked yet. And I don't necessarily think that right now we have the energy to extend to that.
It's a very different, it's very different.
Yeah. And that might sound harsh, but it's reality.
Oh no, well, it's normal. It's business. You do what you're good at, and that works. You mentioned influencers. How do you market yourself? There's so many like channels and ways now to reach an audience. What works for you?
Social media it works. It's fading, unfortunately, just because of the way that the metrics are working, and the metaverse is attempting to has been essentially forcing businesses to pay ads, and we refuse to do that. We don't believe that we have to be essentially pigeonholed into spending money on ad dollars to get in front of consumers. But social media does still work if you have a connection with your audience. And then also just SEO, and of course, great PR, getting in front of readers. We were in Forbes 4 times last year. We just had another feature in Forbes a couple days ago on Forbes Vetted. And right now we're also working on a book. So that will get us in front of a lot of new consumers and also help to educate them. But offering value. At the end of the day, like, that's what we have to do. We get people onto our website. They sign up for our newsletter. We connect with them through our newsletter, and we offer true value.
I think that's the way to go more than anything. And now, like, because we're talking about, I'm working with domains, so I'm talking to people about domain names like all day long with entrepreneurs. And there has definitely been the last few years a shift from exactly what you mentioned. Like, people are starting to realize, hold on a minute, like, I'm paying for ads. I'm bringing people to Facebook, Instagram, whatever. I'm bringing them there. That's my audience. Then I have to pay for ads for you to show to them. And then on top of that, you're going to decide which parts of my content you show on their feed. And not to mention then, all the scandals that you inevitably get involved in, and like they can ban people and accounts disappearing and all that. So definitely way to go. A lot of people we've seen in the past few years investing in their own brand. And as you said, that it may be a bit harder to get people to go to your website and sign up to your newsletter, but once they do that, they're there and it's your audience.
Yeah, we can say whatever we want. We own our newsletter. That's a list that we own. It doesn't belong to, Facebook or Instagram. So, and I've always, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, no, I was going to say not only that, but you control what you do with that list, because on other social media, you're bringing in people and you're not controlling what's happening with their data or with their accounts, and that's like it's unfair to them.
Exactly. And we don't spam them. We're not reselling people's emails. Like, that's a practice that I really, really, really despise, is when people, because there's brands, they do it all the time. They sell your data, they sell your email. I hate when I get emails from people I don't know. And I actually started writing back to people. I have a template now.
Okay.
And
how is that
it's
working out?
One lady got very salty and was like, why did you choose my email out of all the ones to respond to? And I was like, why are you upset that you're getting this email from me? I don't know you. I don't know who you are. I don't know where you came from. I don't know how you got my email. And you're coming into my inbox with absolutely no permission. And then you're gonna get mad at me when I call you out on it.
I did that once recently, and I don't know, like I usually just delete on, not even worth the time. But there was that guy that was like emailing me like 4 or 5 times, but the wording was such that like it makes you think, did I ever talk to that person? And then I looked at all my correspondence, like, no, I haven't. No, like not LinkedIn, not nowhere. So I just wrote unsubscribe, please. And he wrote back and he said, why do you want to subscribe? I was like, because I never subscribed. I said, yeah, but just because you never subscribed, it doesn't mean that I can send you something. It's like, yes, actually it does.
Yeah, it's not legal. And also unsubscribing from email lists and then getting emails from those people again, super illegal, super not okay, needs to be reported. It just, again, we're now going into like privacy laws, and I just take people's email and contact information very seriously. And I also want my email and my contact information to be protected. I know that it isn't, because I get emails all the time from people that I don't know. But for me, that's how I personally choose to operate. And I think it's ethical.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned you've been featured in Forbes, and I saw you have quite a few features in TV as well, and other written publications. How did you get those? I probably can't answer in one question, one sentence, but how do you do that? Because you mentioned
organic.
you people team, and you're doing it yourself.
Organic. I swear, all organic. We have only been pitched. We work with a publicist, and she's fantastic. But people recommend us, and journalists and writers, that's a tight group of people. Journalists, writers really know each other. They're looking out for great brands. They also want to feel like they found you. They love the thrill of like, oh, we found this new brand. And so it's not always about pushing yourself to writers, to publications. Do really, really, really great, the absolute best work that you can first, and be consistent for a very, very long time. And then you will reach the people you want to reach. I promise you. It's going to take a really long time. We didn't get any real publication until like 2019, 2020, and we launched in 2017, starting sales in 2018. We didn't get any real publication for over 2 years, but we were consistent for our first 2 years.
So well, I think you can sum it up with the answer you had to the question about how do you do marketing and how do you reach people. It's basically being authentic and doing quality work.
Yeah.
And I think it's more and more like, there used to be a time not so long ago where you could sort of buy your way around it. Like if you had enough cash to throw at advertising, you could get away with some fishy brand or product. Now it's I think it's gone, and that's a good thing.
You can't do that anymore. And also behind EXAU, there's 2 real people. We're not making, like, we're two real human beings. We're married. We show people what we're doing, how we operate. And I think that that's intriguing because there is, of course, EXAU has its own personality. I have my own personality. So does Giuseppe. But for people to truly see that, they're investing in EXAU. They're also investing in us. So I feel that one of my really good friends and the founder of Pineapple Collaborative, Atara, once told me, she said, every time someone makes a purchase with your brand, they're voting with their dollar. And I could not agree with that more, because every time someone makes a purchase of EXAU Olive Oil, they're voting for Giuseppe and I. They're choosing us over a big brand that they could buy at the supermarket.
No, and it's really, it's authentic, it's personal, and like that's probably a very crappy marketing line that I'm going to use, but for me that was very interesting that you said, you know, I'm doing the marketing, he's doing the physical stuff, but you know, like I was shifting poop like the other way around, and that ends up in, you know, somebody who is buying olive oil on the other side of the planet. It starts like that.
Yeah.
It's
interesting.
literally that connection that is so personal and so real that you know, you're not imagining some machine somewhere, some faceless corporation kind of a thing. It's that.
And we have, and we also have relationships with all of our vendors, and we talk about that. Like, we know, I love going to see our bottle guys and our label guys. They're so funny, and their business is family owned. Every time they go, they're like, you want a coffee? Come on. They move 1,000,000 miles a minute. Like, boom, 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 let's go. You want to do this? We can do this. Like, let's do it for the next label. Oh, you have an anniversary? Let's do this. And they have so much energy. And to have that relationship with someone who is also helping to create your products. Yes, it's Giuseppe and I behind EXAU, but we also work with a bunch of different vendors and a bunch of different small businesses. And now we've switched to working with 100% small and or family-owned businesses in Calabria, which is really hard to do.
Oh, I can imagine.
And everybody's within a 45-minute drive of us. And so we know what's happening with every single step. Our box manufacturers, they also, like, we had to interview for them to work with us. We had to beg them for 2 weeks. Will you please make our boxes? Will you please make our boxes? They were like, no, we don't know you. We don't know who you are. We don't know what you want. Even though I told them what we wanted. What are you doing? Who are you? They wanted to know all these things. And we finally told them, okay, it's going to California. They're like, it's going to California. Okay, we'll make your boxes. Next thing you know, like, we're getting a full tour of the box, the factory. And they're like, this is where your logos are going to go. They're going to be stored here. Amazing. We're going to use this paper.
You should start a reality show there.
Oh my gosh.
You should.
I would make a lot of money if I started reality. But every single thing, and also the people, because we don't have our own mill. We work with another company that owns a mill, and we do all of our milling there, and we get priority because we have developed a relationship with the family that owns the mill. And they know how we want to produce our products. We manage every single step of the process. So that's what I mean. Like, we tell our customers this and they laugh. Like, I've told them about the box guys, and we get the funniest emails. They're like, we want to meet them. Like, please, when we come to Calabria, please take us to meet the box
watching this has connections with not LinkedIn, not Netflix. Yeah, I think there's some potential there. I'd watch that.
Every single thing. And also, like, yesterday, there's a million stories I have, but yesterday we went to the lab to do our lab testing for the oil. And we were there all day for getting the acidity levels, the peroxide levels, polyphenol. And I just can sit and hang out with them in the lab, and she's just doing her little science thing and testing everything. And I get to watch her and sit there. It's just, if we didn't have a relationship with these vendors, I would never be able to do that. Because if you go to a lab and you're like, hi, can I please come back into your biology lab and watch you mess around with all your trinkets and your bottles? Like, that's never going to happen. Yeah, but if you have these relationships with businesses and you know who you're working with, you're able to gain access into truly seeing the behind the scenes of all the little steps that go into your business as well. And that's important to me. It's really important.
Yeah, it is. Oof. I don't have any more questions. Oh, one last one. What are you working on now? What's new and exciting?
Writing the book.
Oh yeah, you mentioned the book. Yeah. When is that
And
coming
I need
out?
to get writing 2023.
Okay.
So I need to get on it. Giuseppe and I are writing it together. It's going to be about olive oil, and it's going to be amazing. I'm so excited about it. I've wanted to write a book since I was a teenager, and I think I really manifested this in 2020 when in my meditation sessions. I swear, in 2020 I was like, I want Oprah's favorite things, I want to be in Forbes, and I want to write a book, and this is the third thing that has happened.
Yay. I'm looking forward to that. And then for real, I mean, do send it to Netflix. I think you have some show potential there.
And here's the other thing, the conversations, you talk about like American and Italian entrepreneurs. So the conversations I have with my American friends, I'm not even kidding. They're like, so when Netflix picks up your documentary, who's going to play you? Or when they do your biopic, who's going to play you? And they have like a list of actresses.
Yeah.
And then I talk to my Italian friends and they're like, so what are we gonna, like, it's just different. It's just not there.
They don't have time for Netflix.
Nah. No,
oh dear. All right.
It's funny though.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's been. How did you name the cat? Last one. Because we were talking about naming. What's the name of the cat? The kitten.
Solo. So.
Oh, nice.
The other thing to come out of Olive Oil is this kitten, because he was running around outside of the bottling facility when we were bottling in December. He was running around and he came up to the door and tried to come inside. And I was like, obviously you can't come inside. It's a bottling facility. And I went outside to check on him because he was just a couple weeks old, very, very small. And he kept trying to get inside and come up and hang out with me. And I was like, I got to go take care of business. And then he disappeared. And so we thought he had gone or like found his mom. We're driving home and we hear meow, meow, meow when we're driving. And I'm like, did you hear a meow? And just, did I hear a meow? No, we didn't hear a meow. That was the radio. We get home and we hear meow, meow. And then we open our truck hood.
Oh my God.
And this little kitten is sitting on this cap, like the only covered part of the engine. Thank God. And he had survived a 7-minute drive from the bottling facility to our house. So he had been hanging out on the engine the whole time.
Oh dear.
So we named him.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, we took him home and took care of him, and we named him Solo. He's alone. You know.
Like you said you feel alone. There you go.
It's lonely. But he's a really good cat. So we didn't choose him. He definitely chose us.
Oh, I think so. That there's no question there.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that kind of goes nicely with writing a book with a cat. It fits perfectly. I think he was the missing piece there.
When I meditate, I ask to have whoever is supposed to be in my life to come into my life. And it usually happens within a couple months. I'm like, okay, if there's someone who's going to help me in my life, to help me, on my journey, become a better version of myself, help me move forward, let them enter, have them be here. I got a cat. That's who I got.
Very persistent cat. I think he was like right there.
The most persistent cat.
Brilliant. All right. Okay. Well, I'm not gonna hold you for much longer. You probably have some things to do. And it's been an absolute pleasure. And I'll edit the interview, send it for you to review before we publish it. And yeah, if anything comes up in the meantime, feel free to email me. I'm looking forward to the book.
Thank you. I do have one question. What are you working on? How are you operating? I'm on your site right now. How is SmartBranding? What are you guys working on right now?
So the business side of what I do is actually on markupgrade.com. And what we do is we help entrepreneurs secure the best domain names for their business. So sometimes it's people like yourself where you started on something else and you want to upgrade to, you mentioned the .com in your case. It's taken, so we do the negotiation, or we find out, like sometimes it's hard to find out who the owner of the domain name is, etc., etc. We do that. We have some names that we represent. So I have contract with domain name portfolio owners, and we do the presentation and marketing for their names. And sometimes we have people or entrepreneurs who don't even have an idea for a name, and they want us to come up with the name and ideally the matching.com domain name. So SmartBranding.com came out of that, I think must be about 3 years ago now, because like you talk to people and you realize most people don't know a thing about olive oil. And then, well, you're writing a book. So, you know, you cannot, that like you're starting from so far when you talk to people, like I can talk about domain names and naming all day. And sometimes I even forget that the person on the other side, like they don't have the same level of understanding of those things. And you can't explain it in a conversation, even if you take, you know, an hour, like nobody has that time, and you can't put it all in. So smart branding came out as a result of that, where there's just so much to say on that topic that that you can't do it in a conversation. So we decided to put things together, and it has like, I'm gonna open it up. It has, so we have the interviews, which is, you know, talking to people like yourself, entrepreneurs who are sharing their experience with, you know, how they came up with the brand, how do they make sure it's effective, so people can learn from each other and share experiences, and also it kind of allows us to give them some publicity. We also have the tips there on branding, naming, domain names, rebrands, etc. We recently added the NFT category because obviously everybody wants to know more about NFTs nowadays. We do, what do we do? We do reports, research on different topics. So it's an ongoing thing, and it's a freely available resource to people to learn more about naming and branding and domain names.
Cool. Well, I'll just let you know, EXAU Olive Oil is up for $20,000 right now. And I'm not paying I'm just not paying $20,000 for EXAU.com. I realize that might not be the ton of money towards like maybe a startup. They'd be like, whatever, easy. And I'm like, no.
Well, I mean, that's ultimately something for you to decide. Like, I'm never, like, people go oftentimes, because what is expensive to somebody is not expensive to somebody else. And generally, like it's a business, you know, you're not buying a handbag or I don't know. So it all has to make sense financially for you. It's like, you know, I'm investing that much into that name. What am I getting out of it?
Yeah.
And that's a calculation that everybody, we have articles on that topic as well. It's a calculation that everybody has to make for themselves. Oftentimes I give an example with, because I'm in Nice, I mentioned, so there's that apartment like right next door that's been on sale for 4 or 5 years now. And I think it was listed at 10 million, then it was at 7 million. So it changes sometimes, but it's like in the, you know, that sort of a price range. And I'm like, I'm not paying that for an apartment. You know, I don't, it's not even a question of whether I have the money or not. It's just, I cannot get my money back on that sort of investment. I'm not going to live there. Like I plan on living anywhere in particular for long enough. Like I like moving. And then if I'm going to rent it, it's just not my thing to, you know, deal with renting apartments, blah, blah, blah. So it does not make sense for me to invest that money. It's not even a question of whether I have it or not. But for other people, it makes sense. You know, somebody might buy it and just live in there and be happy, or somebody might buy it and rent it and make money. So it's not a question, like when people talk to me about domain names, I often use the analogy because it's like, oh, 10 million is a lot for, you know, an apartment or a domain name. Like it's a matter of what you do with it. How much is you and how much makes sense to you. So, you know best your marketing, where you plan to take it in the future, I guess some things that people overlook, because it's easy to measure the things that you have. So you can say, I'm getting that sort of a traffic, I'm getting this, I'm getting that. And I have to say, it's a good thing that I'm seeing more and more people starting to realize, starting to try and measure at least the things that they don't see.
Yeah.
So, for example, we have an interview somewhere on the website with, I think it was angel.com. So they were on AN.gl or something like that. It's a weird spelling of angels. And they were considering, okay, do we rebrand? Do we invest in the .com, exact angel.com? What do we do? And instead of just wondering, they did some tests. And they did some tests with audiences. And then they calculated, okay, it's going to cost us X amount of money to get people to remember an alternative of angel.com. And that's how they calculated, okay, the investment in that domain name makes sense. But that's something that very few people do.
Yeah.
So it's something that I think, as with actually many things, you just need to do your research and you need to figure out what makes sense for you, regardless of what anybody else says.
Yeah.
And taking the time to do that is the important thing.
Yeah. Also, the other thing is olive oil. Olive oils, I think is always going to be our number one product. It's the product that we produce. And so we do want to, of course, introduce pastas. I want to maybe play around with candles or other beauty products, like small beauty home products that people can have, or like little plates or something. But at the end of the day, I don't want us to just be EXAU. I want it to be EXAU olive oil, because that's the product that our other products are going to be built around. If we have a sauce, the sauce is going to have olive oil in it. And also just for SEO, like we're competing with olive oils. So when I have olive oil in the name of the website, like yes, EXAU.com would be amazing, because it would make the brand feel very global across many different types of products. But at the end of the day, it's like we are olive oil at the core, and having olive oil in the actual title of the website makes things really easy.
I'll definitely go over smart branding. There's a lot of stuff there that can be helpful on that. But
I will.
For you to decide.
Well, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing the interview, and I'll reach out if I ever find myself in Nice.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us in this episode of Smart Branding Podcast. Feel free to visit smartbranding.com for more information, and reach out if you have any suggestions, questions, ideas, or just want to learn more about how a good domain name strategy can help you build a strong and successful brand. See you next time.